Hello friends and welcome back to the Complete Harp Beginner series. I'm Heather Downey and I'm delighted to have you here today on my YouTube channel. So in this session we're going to be moving on to look at how to sit at your harp and how to bring your harp to you. So really making sure that you have got the best body position that you can have at your harp to help you go on and make the best sound possible. We're going to start by looking at the way that you should sit and different options for seats for you, and then we're going to move on to bringing the harp to us and how to set yourself up sitting at the harp. So let's get going. So the first thing to get right when working on your seating position at the harp is making sure that you are sitting well before you actually start thinking about your harp. And so first and foremost, make sure you are comfortable. Now I'm sitting here on a harp stool, which means that I don't have any back support and I feel quite comfortable with that. But if you feel that you would prefer a chair that offers a little bit of that lumbar support, then by all means use a chair. The most important thing, of course, is that you are comfortable. Now there are many different options out there of harp stools. You can have adjustable harp stools, non-adjustable. You can have harp stools that are slightly tilted to help bring your hips forward. Lots and lots of different options. So here is an example of a harp stool. This is the Camac adjustable height harp stool. Now it is useful to have an adjustable height harp stool. You can, of course, adapt your height depending on your harp. But what I would say is really important is that you make sure that you are sitting well and then you adjust the harp to you. Now, there is a range of having a good sitting position before you come to your harp, but there are a few pointers that you want to really make sure are right. The first is that your feet are touching the floor. So you want to have your feet nice and flat on the floor, giving yourself a really strong foundation ready for playing the harp. And you want to be able to sit up nice and tall and comfortable, engaging your core muscles. And like I say, if that means that having a little bit of support on your back is helpful, then that's great. Go for something with a bit of back support. Now, obviously you want to be able to feel your seat bones, so you know that you are really well supported there. And with regards to your hips and knees, this is where things get really important. Often people will sit on lower stools in order to adjust themselves to the height of their harp. Their harp is maybe slightly lower and they feel they want to be lower to have their hands in a nice playing position at the harp. But you want to always make sure that your knees are lower to or the same height as your hips. You definitely want to avoid having your knees higher than your hips in any seating position. This can cause your back to roll backwards. Your balance is kind of all off kilter. Often people end up on their toes, their knees higher and their hips rolled back. When in actual fact, if your knees are an equal height to your hips or slightly lower, then you're able to sit up nice and tall, keep all of your feet engaged to the floor and have a lovely supported midsection and your hips nice and balanced, not rolling backwards or indeed rolling forwards. So that's really the main thing you want to look out for. Make sure that your knees are either in line with your hips or even better, just slightly below your hips. And that's going to give you a nice, comfortable seated position. Now, once you've got your sitting position right and you feel good and you feel comfortable, you're able to sit up tall, feet flat on the floor, shoulders nice and relaxed. Then you can think about moving your harp to you. So let's move on to that now. So here I am sitting nice and comfortably My feet are flat on the floor. My knees are slightly lower than my hips. I feel nice and comfortable on my stool. I can feel my sit bones and I'm able to sit up nice and tall without straining my back. So I am sitting up in a comfortable position, a comfortable, strong, but also soft position. I'm not forcing my back to be straight and pushing my chest out. I'm just nice and comfortable on my chair. And that means I'm ready to pull my harp to me. And so I'm going to pull my harp back. I'm going to rock it back on its back feet. And what you'll find with harps is they have a balance point. So as you tip your harp back, there'll be a point where your harp feels more balanced. In other words, if I pull my harp far back, it's very quickly going to fall back towards me. If I don't pull it back enough, it's very easily going to fall forward. But you'll find a point of balance where your harp will kind of balance. It will start to slightly move, but it will pretty much balance without you touching it. And that's a nice point for your harp. And then you can start fitting that harp into your own body shape. So you've got your harp at a nice point of balance. It's definitely not going to fall forward. We want our harp more likely to come back into us. We never want our harp to be falling away from us, because then when you start playing, you'll feel like you're having to hold on to your harp as you play. So the point of balance, and then when it does start to move, make sure it's moving towards you. Okay, so I can actually pull my harp slightly closer to me. And here I am, and it feels nice. So now my harp is balancing on my body. It's balancing, I'm hugging my harp with my knees, and it's balancing gently on my upper body. Now, you'll notice that my harp is actually angled. So if I pull my harp straight back to my body, then when I want to start playing the strings, I can't see all the strings. So I'm actually going to end up twisting myself in order to place and see all my strings. And that beautiful body position which I got with my nice strong straight back and my seat bones, I'm suddenly leaning into one hip, my spine is bent in one direction, and it's not great. If I turn my harp a little bit more so I can see the strings, this is better, but still the upper register of my strings, I can see that I'm still going to crane my neck and I'm going to cause tension in this shoulder. So I want my harp to be at a slight angle so that I can comfortably see all of my strings just with a gentle turn of my neck without having to put any weight down one side or the other side or twist. Okay, so here's my harp. It's leaning nicely on me. I can see all my strings without bending my neck. My feet are still flat on the floor and I still have a nice, very upward feeling in my body. Strong but soft. Now, with regards to the height of your harp, so remember, sort your body out first and then sort the height of your harp out. If I needed to move myself maybe up by, say, an inch or two, then I could adjust my stool and my knees would still be an appropriate position for my hips. But if I had to move myself down too much to fit around my harp, then my knees would end up above my hips, and I really don't want that. So when you reach out naturally to your harp, you want your hands to be naturally falling without even placing, just naturally with a nice kind of 45-degree angle in the elbow coming to the middle of the strings. Okay, and that's a nice height for your harp. Now I actually have a little harp stand which is bringing my harp up to a nice height for me. So to show you what a harp that's too low might look like, if I take this harp off of my stand, then you can see that when I reach my hands out at this nice natural angle, I'm actually playing very high up my strings. So if I wanted to play in the middle of my strings, my arms would end up being down, pointing downwards towards my strings. And I don't want that. I want my harp to be up a little bit higher so that my hands are in this midsection. Now you can raise the height of your harp using harp legs, or you can use a harp stand. And I actually use homemade harp stand. This was made by Lucy Hendry's dad whilst I was teaching her at the conservatoire. Her lovely father made myself and a lot of the other students who were studying with Lucy these fantastic stands, just made out of old wood. We traded them for a jar of honey. So I put my harp on this to bring it up to the right height. There's lots of different options available for you to bring your harp to the right height. But remember, you can adjust yourself a few inches either way on your stool. But any more than that, you really want to be bringing the harp to the right height for you. Work out the right position for your body, that your body feels comfortable in, and then bring the harp to you. That means both in height and also that tilt point and the angle of the strings. So always making sure you are comfortable and the harp adjusts to you. Now, if you're playing a different harp from like my 34 string lever harp, you still want to work with the same principles. So even for a pedal harp, we want our knees slightly lower than our hips. I like to sit slightly higher on my pedal harp to help me with my feet at my pedals. We definitely want to avoid our knees being higher than our hips. And if you're working with a lap harp, again, you want to make sure that your body is correct, and then you're fitting the harp into your body in a comfortable position. Now, I do have a video series, a 4-part video series on body position at the harp, which I will link up at the top. And this video series I made a little while ago, so we don't have quite the same equipment that we do now, but it's got really in-depth advice about body position, whether you're on a floor harp or a lap harp. So I'd highly recommend having a look at that, just for a bit more in-depth information. Now, in our next session, we're going to be moving on to look at our arm and hand position at the harp, getting ourselves ready to pluck those strings very soon. Thank you so much for following along this series with me. Please do comment below how you're doing and what harp you are playing. And if you have any questions, do write them in the chat below and we will definitely get back to you. Thank you so much for being here with me. Please do like and subscribe this video, and I will see you in our next session to work on our hand and arm positioning.